This is called the flood, correct?
Yes.
What does it mean?
So this is the flood story in Genesis. There's a little Noah's Ark in there. It's really small. Um, and it's mostly like I really like in the story how it talks about the waters opening from above and below, because modern people don't think like that. And I like the idea that they're opening, like it calls it like a floodgate maybe or something like that, and it's just like this really cool, this really powerful image of something just being opened, um
Mm.
and chaos flooding everything. So in the story of the flood, Noah lands eventually on a mountain. I can't remember what it is now. It's been a while. But he does, like, he lands on a mountaintop. So there's a little mountain there at the bottom, and then I've got the sun and the moon, like, stylized in the corners, which is kind of breaking things down to the most essential, like masculine, feminine again. Um, and yeah, the middle is um, a void, because when things are being dissolved or broken apart, that's uh, what takes precedent. I guess it's empty, which is deeply unsettling, I think, to
Mm-hmm.
experience. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking about with that.
How do you guys think this applies to culture today,
This
society
entire
today?
image.
Yes, I mean the image, the story, the I guess I can lead to give you an example of what I mean. I
Yeah.
feel like we're seeing you see cycles in that repeat throughout history. And it seems to me that there's this oscillation between, it's a good example is the hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. So the cycle continues. And it seems to me that about, spoke about this a bit, Lucas, on the episode on your podcast, but the four turnings, every every 80 to 100 years throughout history, you typically see these cycles where you have a great catastrophe, the fall from that, the pain incurred from that, the lessons that pain teaches, the strength that that pain offers, and then the recreation of the oasis before the wise king becomes senile and willfully blind and your society collapses. And man, let me tell you, I wouldn't imagine, I don't really want to go down a political route, but I'm about to. That in the United States, you see, if you want to look at the position of the wise king becoming senile and willfully blind, and then looking at the past 4 years of having Joe Biden in office, I'm really speaking more from an archetypal lens. It like makes so much sense. It's like, where this is a simulation, right? Like, what's going on? Like, it's just too predictable. It's just too on the nose. It's like the writers need to like make this simulation a bit more
Realistic.
yeah, right. And so I feel like we're seeing, I feel like I've seen this a bit in my, so then the United States, my home country, but then also my home state, California, where this you've seen a city like LA that I lived in for the past 10 years, and I'm from Southern California. And I love California, by the way. I was living in Florida at the beginning of the year, and I'm out there like talking all this shit, basically, like, oh, like California's way better than Florida. You guys are lame. Y'all don't know, I rep my home state. I love my home state, and
Yeah.
it breaks my heart to see the ways that it's becoming more corrupted and more, that it's like falling apart more and more. And I don't know exactly what I'm getting at with this. It's more just a feeling. It feels to me like that flood story is correlated. There's a similar, story to some degree about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But it seems to me that when you like depart from like truth, essentially, you manifest hell on earth,
Yeah.
and then you have to claw your way out of that hell and reset up the oasis in that cycle. And that's part of why this circular feeling to this, like that, I feel like that I wouldn't have associated that perhaps with this story, that cyclical nature of it, as much, unless I'd seen it in this flowing down a vortex sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does kind of, I mean, it's kind of like flowing down the drain. There's a circling the drain kind of thing going on here. Yeah, I see all of those themes. There's a reason that certain people online have been talking about building your arc, right, to preserve something while the chaos sort of heightens, which seems like it's only going, I mean, it seems like it would only increase. I don't know. The Joe Biden thing, whether he was a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't really matter. He was like asleep, which was weird.
Weekend at
But
Bernie's.
then, yeah. So I think this thing about the chaos breaking through is what I forgot. How did you phrase your original question? Was it how does this reflect it on society right now at large? But
Yeah. Is there any like reflections or
yeah,
parallel?
I think that as we we've lost the thing that binds everything together, which should be like God should be in the middle, right? Like the highest thing should be in the middle. And when that goes, for whatever reason, you can blame it on this or that or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But when it's
And there's
not
not a single thing to
functioning
blame it
anymore,
on.
say that again.
There's not a single thing to blame it on. You know, like that's like a big
Yeah,
error I feel like I see is everyone's like, oh, it's this, it's that, it's this group, it's
right.
that group. It's like, no, 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 it's all of you and the war raging inside of all of you, you know.
Yeah, it's just it's more fundamental than that. So everybody's trying to pinpoint like what it is, and it doesn't seem to like 100 years ago the same problems were relevant to people. We just think that they weren't, or like 100 years before that they were talking about the same things. If you look, we think we're different now. We're not. It's the same problem. So we are like circling the drain. It's just kind of like more obvious or exaggerated, maybe, because of how much information is floating around. So that might hasten the
Yeah.
chaos incoming.
Yeah.
But that chaos like breaks down the structure, I guess. So that's kind of this maze like thing around the edges is more like something solid, something structural, and the swirling sort of, water or whatever is the dissolution of those things. And then you start seeing people like there's an uptick in people who are mentally unwell, um, in drugs and homeless, whatever. There's a lot of things you can point to where you go, this doesn't look good. Um, and I think that's the chaos like flowing into the cracks. Like the cracks start opening and that's the floodgate. So I don't know. This is probably the most relevant
Yeah.
image, I think,
Yeah.
for the
I
moment.
I think it reflects the fact that the world is always ending, and today especially we speak about that a lot. Apocalypse. People think the world is ending for ecological reasons, political reasons, spiritual reasons. It's all coming together in a sense today, but it's always the world is always ending is the message, I think. And if you leave your house alone, or if you stop taking care of your plants, things just rot. They turn back into chaos, or perhaps into nature. And nature's not bad, but you know what I mean. We are the counterforce to chaos itself, and um, I
That's
can't
what
help
life
but
is.
yeah, it's true. And that's like you see the arc. This little thing could be like a seed in a sea of chaos, but it's what preserves the world, and all of us have that responsibility. That's what I liked about the story told through Jordan's perspective, is that he puts the mirror back at you and like, you're Noah. Like the world is ending. What are you going to do about it? And your arc may be like a whole country. It could also be one household or just yourself, but there's definitely things you can and should do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I feel
and
like
like, go ahead.
the two things to do or that you can do, it's like I feel like you can see a society trend towards maybe two different types of chaos, but like the chaos of like conflict, explicit, or like revival, essentially. Like I think you can see it go to, yeah, the chaos of conflict, or that like, or like the flow of revival, and how it's like a returning from, like, it's sort of like a, I feel like as you see, as things become more and more and more polarized, you either have that like violent clash back, or you can have that like, hey yo, we all need to like learn how to flow in the middle again, like,
Yeah,
and that's that. I mean, I feel like for where we're at in a cultural moment too, that's for sure to be determined. But I have a lot of hope as well. Like I see a lot of signs of revival personally. I think that what we're doing right now to some degree is a sign of revival, a spiritual revival. And I think that that is the potential antidote. And I think it's going to happen either way, really. It's just like, do you want to do this the easy way or the hard way, kind of, like,
yeah, yeah.
uh, perhaps they're both hard ways, but one is much preferable to the other. Who knows?
Yeah, they're definitely both hard. I thought about this as well with the fourth turning, reading that book, and like, what is our crisis? Was it our
Mhm.
lockdown period?
Let's
Um,
hope. Let's hope that was enough.
yeah, I'm really hoping that it's not like World War III. And there's a degree to which you self-fulfill these prophecies. Like I saw these things popping up on Twitter where people are all like pointing toward reasons why the world is ending, and it's like, well, if that's the way we're gonna think and speak about it, then it's probably gonna happen. You
Mhm.
need a positive vision. It's good to
Mhm.
have a negative vision to be prepared against, but if that's all you're presenting, then there's nothing to do. Like there needs to be a solution to problems, and I think Noah symbolizes that.
There is the image of the flood, and there's the chaos, and there's that, but it's also an image of baptism, which is another kind of disillusion,
Mhm.
preparing for rebirth and renewal. And everybody talks about the apocalypse, and the problem is that everybody's kind of a heathen now. So we talk about apocalypse, and we're like, oh, like. But at the end of the story, there's the apocalypse, but like the end is like the new Jerusalem, like the new paradise. That's the part of the story that's getting left out because I don't know. Uh, I'll just say it, the way people talk about things is that they don't really believe that the good part comes afterward. They're
No,
just preparing for the collapse, and then there's nothing else. And even
Mhm.
people who kind of talk with this religious, conservative Christian, whatever, really focused on the catastrophe. Like
yeah,
overwhelmingly, everything is ending, and I get
Why?
it, but
Why do you?
you gotta look past to the like, what is the pattern though? Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
where does it go? Um, yeah, so that
Why
kind of
do you
bugs me.
think that subgroup seems to be? Because you would sort of think, right? Well, you would think that like the more spiritually aware would be would would be concluding that like the good's going to win in the end. Why does it seem that the religious group is so? Are they just aware of what's wrong? Like.
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
it's
No,
go
go ahead.
on.
Well, I don't know if how religious the explicitly religious are sometimes, if you know what I mean. Like you can say that you're a Christian, but if you don't believe that the world is good, then are you a Christian?
Yeah,
There's a
right.
lot of people that are embracing Christianity because they hate wokeism, for example. Does that make you a Christian? Well, your faith
Mm,
is motivated by hatred, so I'm not sure about that. Uh, I'm not taking down all conservative Christians, but like there is a degree to which it's different to say that you're a Christian and to act like one, and to really have faith like Jesus did. That's foundational, and that's really difficult. So I'm not sure if that's people that are more spiritually in tune, or yeah. So
I mean,
that's
they still have belief systems, which everybody needs, right? We all have that, but those are still. It doesn't matter if you're Christian or you're whatever you are, whatever identity thing you have. Your belief system right now is still being stress tested to the extreme everybody. I mean, that's why some people, everybody's kind of doubling down, right? We see that everywhere because everything is going through the flood. Like that's
Yeah,
what happens. So everything is being tested. Like it is the test. Like how strong do you believe this? What are you going to act on? If you really think the world's ending, how then are you going to act?
yeah.
Is a
Mhm.
good one, I think.
Yeah, that is a good question.
By the way, what does apocalypse mean?
Means a reveal. No, revealing. No.
Yeah,
What
something
is
like
it?
that. I think
Yeah,
it's like revealing
unveiling
a
maybe.
revelation, something like that. I think there's a
Yeah.
more beautiful translation, but I was just looking it up because I read something about that yesterday, and it's I think there's a truth to that when the world is ending or when it's close to like this state of apocalypse, people become aware of the patterns. Like normally we don't question religion or like fundamental assumptions about our reality. We do, like 21st century people, we have atheism, but like throughout the history of time, that's very rare. That happens cyclically, I think, but that's not normal. Like we're a very anomalous era in the sense that a lot of things are revealed to us explicitly or through explanation, um, and experience that yeah, that's not a normal thing. Like us being aware of like Peugeot symbolism and stuff like that, people didn't think about it like that. The reason that it's so salient and interesting to us is because we're the age of the questioners and the age without tradition in a sense. um, at least we're not completely decoupled from it, but we lost a lot of it, and so we're all wowed by someone like Jordan who speaks about very commonsensical things and explains stories that a lot of us were exposed to for a very long time, and he just finds a spin on it um, that makes them all of a sudden alive to us. But to a lot of cultures that, or a lot of times and places, that was just all of these things were self-evident, and like we're being pulled from this spell of materialism that was a bit of a curse that we're now awakening from.